Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Catching the Facts here on WSVC Radio. My name is Dan Sisk. I'm going to be one of your hosts.
And I'm Eric Schroeder.
Eric and I are really excited to provide everyone with an uncensored view of Division I college football. And I believe that we are going to be the first podcast that is published on the WSVC Radio channel. So please bear with us. We're going to be doing our best, but there will definitely be a learning curve. Neither of us have really done anything like this before. But we're really, really excited to do this, and we can't wait to do it. So the basic plan for this podcast is to talk about Penn State and Pitt football specifically due to the geographic connections to those two schools. However, because both teams were off this week, we are planning to talk about three other games that definitely have a large factor into the larger tapestry that is college football. So we're going to be talking about the Georgia-Texas Classic, and I think it's safe to call it that, Eric. That happened last night. We're going to be talking about Alabama, Tennessee, and how Alabama really is going off the rails and we're watching it in real time. And then Miami, Louisville, which is a powder keg of a situation there in Miami. So we're going to start off with Georgia, Texas, and I actually have a pretty long story about this game that I'm going to tell. So Eric, you want to take it off before I start?
Yeah, I mean, Texas just didn't play that good. They couldn't run the ball at all. Only 29 yards on the ground. And then their third down efficiency, they went 2 for 15. And then 41 penalty yards also.
Ewers was awful.
Yeah, I mean, he was having
really
a bad day. He went 25 for 43 on 211 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. So,
yeah. So basically, my take on this would be, and Eric, you might have a more specific take than me, but my basic take on this would be Texas is probably going to win the SEC. This is just a quick blip for them. I still think they're a really good football team. I think they're very dynamic on both sides of the ball. I think Ewers is a stud, even though he had a bad game. They'll be fine. Georgia definitely turned it around. I think a lot of people had them had them down for the count after the Alabama game. I mean, you heard Kirby Smart delivering a soliloquy on how, after the game, delivering a soliloquy on how everyone had counted them out and how the refs were planning on taking the game away from them and all of that. But, the reality is that both teams had a really good chance, and one of them was simply the better team. The fact that Georgia won with Carson Beck having one of his worst games of his career is pretty astonishing to me. I mean, 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions, really, and no touchdown passes. That's really, really bad for a Heisman candidate, and they still won the game by multiple touchdowns. And I think that says a lot about the Georgia defense specifically, forcing 4 turnovers on Texas. That's huge. Where my anger came from watching this game last night was the nauseating Texas Longhorn fan base, a group of fans that I would genuinely call delinquents. I truly mean that sincerely. I really do. They are a nauseating group of people. So if anyone was not watching, there was a terrible defensive pass interference call on Texas that negated a Carson Beck interception. And what the Texas Longhorn fan base decided to do in response was one of the most childish things I've ever had the misfortune of watching on national television. So, essentially, they all start throwing beer cans, water bottles, and any trash you can think of onto the field. I thought that I had the same ringworm that RFK had in his head. I thought I had it. I didn't know what I was watching. It was unbelievable. Okay, it was absolutely unbelievable. The refs come together, clearly startled, right, Eric, by the Texas fan base, and they overturn the call. A pass interference call should not be allowed to be overturned. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. For context, everyone, my mother went to Penn State and my dad went to Georgia, so those are definitely the two schools that I claim allegiance to. I had more invested in this game than most others. So when I saw this happen, I felt my sanity start to slowly drip away. And it was pretty incredible, to witness. And I thought at that point that Texas had the game. I mean, they had the call on their side, and it looked like they had all the momentum in the world. They go on to score a touchdown on the subsequent drive, and then they just peeled over and died. They peeled over and died. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, it really was.
I want to laugh at them.
Yeah.
But it's not even worth a laugh.
No, I mean, it's not funny though. I think it's more sad than funny.
You and I have different interpretations of what's funny. Look, I think it's just really, really embarrassing on the part of the Texas Longhorn fan base. And I'd like to add, earlier today, we're recording this on Sunday, the University of Texas actually released a statement, and this is from the Board of Regents chairman, the president, and the athletic director of the college. In a joint statement, they said, quote, "While we deeply appreciate the passion and loyalty of our fan base at the University of Texas at Austin, we do not condone the unsportsmanlike conduct that was exhibited by some individuals throwing objects onto the field during last night's game, and sincerely apologize to the University of Georgia players, coaches, and fans." I bet you do, as well as the Southeastern Conference and officiating crew. "This type of behavior will not be tolerated," end quote. Some individuals, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to Google the video. There were hundreds of pieces of trash in the end zone. Look it up. That was not a situation where some individuals, that was a significant portion of the fans were doing that. And look, I understand that it was a bad call, but you just cannot do that. And you have set a precedent. You've set a precedent that officials will be rattled whenever fans throw stuff onto the field and riot and threaten to riot. I mean, it's absurd. Okay, Eric, there's my rant. I got it off my chest. Do you have anything else to add on this? I just had to get that off my chest. That's been boiling up in me since last night, guys. It's been really bad. I got so angry. I really, really did. I was ranting to everyone who would listen. I was with friends from high school, and they were just watching me. They were watching the life in me die. And I was texting my dad as this was going on, and I'm sure, I don't exactly remember what I texted. I don't have it pulled up. But I'm sure I was pretty lucid in my text messages as well. So, Eric, do you have anything else to add on that?
I do not.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on, guys. We're going to move on to Alabama and Tennessee. I really don't have much to say about Tennessee. This is really all on Alabama. This program's a mess. I mean, let's just call it like we see it. We all thought that after the Georgia game that this team was legit and that they were going to be going head-to-head with Texas and potentially Georgia for the top spot in the SEC and definitely a spot in the playoff. But at this rate, I mean, they are pulling a Florida State right before our very eyes, and I never in a million years would have thought that would happen, Eric.
I mean, I can't say I saw it coming, but I kind of did. Once Saban left, they lost a lot of recruits, and then guys transferred out also.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
They still have Milroe, though.
They do, yeah, and then they also got Ryan Williams.
They do.
So it's like that connection is just good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when the best coach of all time leaves,
yeah,
it's going to impact the.
And I understand that. However,
yeah,
Saban gave his blessing to DeBoer. Okay, they would not have picked DeBoer if they did not think that he was going to deliver.
Of course,
I definitely think that expectations were a problem when you succeed the greatest coach of all time at the university that he made his biggest impact in.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to create a lot of expectation.
Right. Oh yeah.
And at Washington, he did not have that expectation Because with all due respect to the fans of the University of Washington, and I doubt that there are many listening to this podcast, but let's assume that there are. You guys are not a big deal in the world of college football. You really aren't. You have a couple good years.
Yep.
They made the playoff, twice? 3 times?
Yeah.
They're fine, but they're not on the world stage, per se, like Alabama is.
Right.
And I think it's pretty clear. Eric, can you give me the penalty stats for Alabama?
They had 15 penalties for 115 yards.
15 penalties
Yes.
for 115 yards.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is all Kalen DeBoer. That is very, very, very poor coaching.
Yeah.
On the part. I haven't seen coaching that bad since Mike McCarthy allowed the Dallas Cowboys to have 13 penalties in that playoff game against, who was that? San Francisco, I think. It was just really, really poor coaching. And I think it's very indicative of a 3-week struggle that I think a lot of people have kind of shunted under the bed because they won the Georgia game.
Yeah.
We were talking, not on the air, but we were talking as the college football fans that we are 4 weeks ago when Alabama won against Georgia. They had almost choked in the second half of that game. And we thought that this team, they showed a little struggle in the second half, obviously, but they won the game. Credit to them. Georgia was the number 1 team in the country at the time. That was a great win. And they lose to Vanderbilt after Nick Saban says on air that all SEC schools are difficult to play at except for Vanderbilt. Okay. I mean, if that's not indicative of Vanderbilt of how bad the Vanderbilt loss was, I don't know what is. Then they struggle against South Carolina. South Carolina, they're irrelevant. Just as irrelevant as Vanderbilt. And they struggle against that team. And now the Tennessee game. I think that this program is in deep, deep, deep trouble. Yeah. And it starts with DeBoer. 15 penalties for 115 yards is a disgrace for a program that just recently was in the middle of a dynasty.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe before, that's the most penalties since Saban.
Absolutely.
I believe under Saban, they had, I think, 96 yards of penalties was the most when he was coaching.
Yep.
Kalen DeBoer steps in for, week 7 now? And that's just unexcusable.
Yeah, it is inexcusable. Now, I would ask you this, Eric. They have Missouri next week, then they have a bye, and then they have to go to LSU. I think there's a really good chance they lose both those games.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. They could totally lose because LSU's hot right now.
Yeah, four-loss Alabama team. I never thought I'd see the day.
No.
I never thought I'd see the day, but I think it's a very real possibility that they lose both of those games. I mean, Missouri isn't great, but they are not awful. And Vanderbilt sucks. So if you lose to Vanderbilt, I think it's reasonable to give Missouri at least a puncher's chance.
But Missouri went to OT with Vanderbilt and won by 3.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Then they lost to Texas A&M also.
Yeah, I think that Missouri will give them more trouble than they're probably assuming, and I think LSU at this rate at LSU that game's going to be a massacre.
Oh yeah,
that game's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be really, really bad.
Yeah.
So it's really, really crazy to see Alabama start to go down. I really didn't, Eric. I never thought I'd see the day.
No, me neither.
And so it's pretty surreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else on that team?
I do not.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the last discussion of the day, which is Miami Louisville. I have nothing to say about Louisville. This is all Miami.
I mean, a great game from Louisville.
A great game from Louisville. They played well.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how Miami is a powder keg?
They just don't have any defense.
They have no defense.
Offense-wise, they're good. I mean, Cam Wardy's balling out, but defense, they're
the biggest frauds in the top 10.
I think so too.
They're the biggest frauds. They are a pinky finger away from having 2 losses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They are going to get steamrolled. Do they play Clemson in the regular season, Eric? I do not know off the top of my head. Let's say they do. They will get killed.
They do
don't?
not.
Okay. Well, they're lucky.
Yeah.
They're lucky because Clemson would win that game. Clemson's the best team in the ACC.
For sure. Yeah.
I think it's pretty powerful stuff too because Dabo Swinney made a big deal about not recruiting any transfers to his team. Eric, they were one of 4 teams, Clemson, to not acquire any transfers this offseason. Wow. The other 3 were the service academies of Army, Air Force, and Navy. So Dabo Swinney's definitely playing by the old rules, and he has, I got to say, I will give credit where credit is due. He has proven that his way works. But this isn't a discussion about Clemson. Point is, I think Clemson's definitely going up, and I think Miami, again, guys, they are frauds. Let's call them like they are.
Yeah.
They are not legit. They're probably, if I had to guess, I think the ACC championship game is going to be pretty rough. Now, this is where we can bring Pitt into the discussion. Mm-hmm. Let's say Pitt makes it to the ACC championship game. Do you think that Pitt wins that game?
See, that's tough. I actually don't. I think Miami will take it. Pitt has been playing good. They're 6-0.
Holstein's real good.
He is.
Yeah. But their O-line is garbage.
Right.
Their O-line sucks. They can't give them any protection whatsoever. Forget not being able to pass block. I don't think they know what a pass block is.
Yeah.
I don't think the O-line knows what a pass block is. They hear the words pass and block together, and they're like, they just, they go limp.
They do.
Not good. I truly believe that Pitt has a really good chance at winning the ACC championship game if they were to get there. But Syracuse will be somewhat challenging because Kyle McCord is a decent quarterback. I think a lot of his stats were boosted by Marvin Harrison, obviously.
Sure.
But I still think that he's a really solid QB. SMU is legit. At SMU is going to be a real tough game. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Pitt has Clemson, which is going to be a big deal. But this is all basically, this has turned into an ACC recap more so than a Miami-Louisville discussion. But moral of the story, guys, do not buy into Miami. I do not care that they are number 6. They are frauds. Yeah. They are not real. They are not going to make it. They're not. I don't think they're going to make the playoff because I think they're going to lose one of these games in the regular season. And if they make it to the ACC championship, they're going to lose to whatever team makes it there. I think Clemson would annihilate them. I think Pitt wouldn't annihilate them, but Pitt would have a good chance at winning. Miami's not going to win that game. That's my bold prediction. I do not think that they will. Eric, do you have anything else?
I mean, they let up 400 yards total.
My God.
Now Louisville, they let up 538 yards total, but I mean, ranked team versus unranked team, it's expected. Just an offensive shootout, really.
It was. Guys, don't buy into Miami.
Yeah.
You heard it here. October 20th, 2024. I think this is going to go up around 6 p.m., something like that. You heard it here first. Miami's frauds. Well, you didn't hear it first. I'm pretty sure all the talking heads on the networks. I don't really watch ESPN personally because, I don't find it very engaging. I like to just watch the games myself. I'm sure they've been talking about Miami and they're trying to boost Miami because of the prestige of the program and they used to be a big deal. But if they're trying to make you buy Miami stock, don't.
Yeah. Yeah, don't.
They're not very good. Okay. Yeah. So that was the very first episode of Catching the Facts. Eric, I think we enjoyed doing that, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive any mishaps on our part. This is the first time Eric and I are doing anything like this, so there's definitely a learning curve for the both of us, but this is something we're both really passionate about and really excited about doing, and we can't wait to continue providing it on a regular basis. So this will be a show that we make every Sunday. I'm excited for next week. We'll actually be able to talk about Penn State and Pitt, which is really, really exciting. Until then, I'm Dan.
And I'm Eric.
And we'll see you then.